Today I'm going to show you how to add some extra across the midsection of any shirt, and this adjustment works for both men and women. Here we have a button up front, and you can see that when it's anchored at the sides as if it's sewn to the back and pinned shut, that there's a lot of strain happening and pointing right here. So we need to add, and we only need to add across the front. The back might fit you okay. You might not be able to tell because it's kind of pulling and straining across the back. But if you look at where your side seam is, if the side seam, if it was in the right place and you unbuttoned it here and we let it hang naturally, do we find that that is exactly what we're looking for when it's at the side seam, but it's just gaping right there at the center, right where you need it. So let's look at a few different ways to make this adjustment. And I'm going to show you the differences, the before and after, and we'll decide which one is the best for you. So which one do you think will work best? Will it be this one where we add a wedge straight from the hem up to the neckline at the center front? Is it this one where we add the wedge from the hem up to the shoulder point? Is it this one where we kick out the side seam and we add that extra right there at the hem? Or is it this one where we add it kind of centrally located right on top of the belly? Let me know which one you think it's going to be. Let's go over our pattern just so you have some ideas on how to deal with a button-up shirt, since this adjustment is very common for button-up shirts, and placket styles can differ pretty wildly between them. Sometimes they have a built-in placket, like this one here on the right, that gets folded twice in order to create the under placket. Whereas this one here on the left, which is the right front, has a separate placket and it gets folded in half, sewn onto the garment, and it creates the extension plus the center front. Both of these are the same where you're seeing the red dashed line. That's how these are exactly the same. So as long as you're steering clear of that center front area where the placket is, you're going to be fine as long as you're making your adjustment kind of to the right of where that is. I would just kind of steer clear about an inch away and you're going to be fine, and do the same exact adjustment to both your left and your right if you have a left and a right front. So we'll use this left front here just so we can see the piece that has some extra placket that's sitting there. All right, let's go through the changes. Now this change is going to put that excess exactly where we need it, right here at the belly. And this change isn't going to affect our armhole, our side seam, our shoulder, or our neck, but it will affect our center front length here, and it will give us some additional lengths to travel over the additional circumference. The way I would do this one is I would roughly figure out exactly where I want to add this additional circumference and length, which is going to be right here in our abdomen area. And then I'm going to make a couple of cuts with hinges. We're going to go straight up through there, and then we're going to pivot over to the armhole. This is really similar to a full bust adjustment if you've done one of those. And then we're going to need another cut line over here from center front through to that first cut line. Our hinges are going to be right here at the armhole on either side of that seam line. Now we're going to cut up all the way to the armhole, and then we're going to swing this out the amount that we want to add here. Now we're not going to be creating a dart like we do in a full bust adjustment, nor do we need these lines to be parallel. So we're just going to get that amount that we need right here, and you're going to measure straight across that width. So if you need 1 inch, you're going to want to spread this apart 1 inch. If you need 2 inches total across your entire center front from side seam to side seam, you're going to take half that and add it to each side. So here we have our additional inch, and now our front here is too short to match. So we're going to slice right along this other line, and we're going to lower this so that it blends in nicely with the hem. And we'll just fill in these areas here with paper and we're good to go. We haven't changed our armhole. We have changed our placket length, so we need to make sure if we're doing this change to the other front that we're doing the exact same thing. And if you have an additional placket that sews onto this, you need to lengthen that placket the exact same amount you lengthened it right here. Let's look at the difference and see how it compares to our original front. We can see that it kicked out the side seam here. It also lengthened there at the hem. We also noticed that we got this little extra bump here at the armhole. So that's gonna help create the volume right here down the center front. This kind of helps give it that additional volume, kicking it out right here. It'll look more natural. All right, so now let's look and see how it looks on the dress form. This adjustment added it very specifically where we wanted it. We went up the hem and over to the armhole, where we only added a little bit through here, and we added the majority of it only where we needed it. We were very specific. We didn't change the side seams, we did change the hem circumference, and the other added bonus with this one is that it gets a little longer, which I think is really necessary in some cases, so that you can travel over a longer length down the front there. And if your upper body fits really nicely already and you really don't want to impact anything up here, this might be the adjustment for you. I think this one looks the most like a natural shirt. It doesn't look like it has an adjustment built into it. It hangs really nicely. And I think this one right here looks really nice. Probably the simplest of all the adjustments today would just be to slice up to the armhole along the side seam and kick out that side seam, adding it right there. Now this has some benefits if you're trying to rescue a shirt that's just a little too tight in the hem circumference, and maybe you have some additional seam allowance that you can borrow from. This might be the adjustment that kicks that garment into rotation from your closet, rescuing it from the naughty pile. To do this adjustment on the pattern, if you wanted to try it that way, we're going to cut through the hem along the side seam here, stopping up here where we have a hinge on each side of that armhole seam. We slice up and kick it out the amount that we want, measuring down there at the hem the exact amount that you want to add across the cut. And then we can blend our hem without changing the side seam length and any other pieces. Let's see how this one compares. You can see there it is. You can see from here to here, we've added that full inch. And it really didn't change much in the way of length or other style lines. It just kicks it out right there at the hem. Let's see how it looks on the dress form. This sample has the extra only added right here at the hem to nothing at the underarm here. So we slashed and kicked out the side seam. And this looks surprisingly better than I thought it would. I didn't think it was going to hang quite right. And often this is a really quick and dirty way to do things. It's only going to affect your hem circumference, and it's only going to add that wedge right here at the side seam. So if you're looking to try and keep the changes at a minimum, you don't want to add any length, or maybe you can only do something at the side seam because it's a sewn garment and you have a little extra seam allowance, you could probably let out the side seam here at the hem and gain as much back of that seam allowance as possible if your shirt is already made. But for the most part, this is okay. I'm not sure that it's the best option because we didn't add it exactly where we needed it, but it's getting the job done. We have two adjustments that are going to go all the way to the top of the garment. This is going to be handy if you need a little extra width all the way through the garment. We're not going to affect the neck, the shoulder, the armhole, or the side seam. We're just going to need to reshape our hem, but we've added the additional circumference right where we need it, plus a little all the way through the front. We're going to cut from our hem all the way up. In this example, I chose that juncture right there where the shoulder meets the neckline. There would be a hinge right here on either side, and then we'll cut from our hem all the way up to that hinge. And then we'll kick out the shirt, adding the circumference at the bottom for the exact amount that we need, measuring right across that slice. We haven't changed the neckline, the shoulder, the armhole, the side seam, and we would only need to blend our hem to get it back on track. Let's see how this looks compared to the original. You can see this one kicks up that shoulder, the armhole, it kicks out the whole side seam, and it brings out the hem a tiny bit. So this is going to be great if you want a little extra volume all throughout the shirt and you're not affecting any of the seams except for that hem. I don't have a sample of this one sewn, but it's very similar to our other change where we slice up the front to the neck here, and I'll show you that sample soon. This is very similar to the change where I sliced right here at that neck shoulder juncture. It's just slightly different. It just depends on what you have going on your pattern pieces. Some changes just won't work for some patterns, and this one is really similar to that one, so we're going to see the sample of that one. And this one's going to give you some added circumference all the way down the shirt here. You're going to get a tiny bit here in the upper chest. You're going to get a little bit through the belly and chest, and then that full abdomen amount. So it's going to really affect the whole garment, but we're not going to be changing the neckline, the shoulder, the armhole, the side seam. We're only affecting that hem, and that'll be really easy to blend in. There's no additional length either, but you can always add some in. And I would do this one very similar to how I did the one that goes up to the neck there. I'm going to steer clear of the placket area there just to make sure we don't disrupt any other sewing lines there. We're going to make a cut line from our hem to our neck, stopping at the neck seam so we don't change the length of it. Our hinge is going to be right here on either side of that neck seam. And then we'll cut straight up and kick out our whole shirt there, the amount that we want at the bottom there. Your line will be a little straighter than mine. So let's see how this compares. Again, we've kicked out our shoulder here, a little tiny bit here at the neck. You can see you're adding just that real sliver of volume right here to get that. You've kicked out the armhole, the side seam, and a little bit of the hem here. So you're adding a little bit everywhere without changing any of these seam lines. So this might be really beneficial if you just need a lot across the front, you don't need to change the back, and you don't want to mess around with changing any of your other pattern pieces. In this example, we added the wedge from hem to neckline, nothing at the neck, all the way down here, and we added our full inch going through the hem. So if you needed a little bit of extra added circumference only across the front and you need it all the way down your upper chest, your full chest, and the midsection, this might be the adjustment for you. It might take care of a couple things all at once. I think it still hangs really nicely. It puts the fullest volume right where you want it, and it does it without impacting any of your other seams. I think it hangs pretty good too. This looks good. It looks pretty natural. Doesn't look like we've added something there, and I think this could be a really great way to get that extra all down the front. So let's look at these again and compare each one to each other. So we have this one where we've added it up to the neck, and then we have this one here where we added it to the shoulder, and they're pretty similar. You can see the perimeter there changing barely, and that just might be how accurate I was here in the program. But I tried to keep all of these with the exact same amount that we kicked out there at the bottom using the grid. All right, so let's look at the side seam here. And you can see this one really keeps all the volume right here in this part of the shirt. It doesn't kick up the shoulder, the armhole, or the side seam out. It really localizes it down there at the hem. So now we have our one that's more like a full belly adjustment. We don't kick out much here because we didn't go all the way up to the neck here. But we did get a little extra length, which is kind of nice, and we got the full volume across the hem here. So all in all, I think that these will each serve a different purpose, but you will get that extra circumference right across the front where you need it, whichever one you pick. Here's all 4 of our changes. I think each one's going to do a good job of getting you that extra addition that you need across the front at the hem there. They all just have little different tweaks that will help you get maybe some extra width somewhere else, or maybe it'll be the easier way to do it for your pattern style. So let me know which one you try and which one you thought was going to be the winner, and if you thought there was going to be a winner. Good luck fitting your garments. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.